Hello friends, welcome you all to another video, and today we are going to continue with the paper number 9 and the summary of last episode, the last scene, that is the line number 907 to 1093. And in today's lecture we are also going to cover the themes, motifs and symbols of this drama. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. So Prometheus shouts out his prophecy that Zeus, though he is confident now, will one day be destroyed by a far more powerful offspring who will be a better fighter and have recourse to greater weapons. This will fulfill the curse of Cronus, Zeus' own deposed father. Only Prometheus himself can prevent Zeus' downfall. The chorus suggests that this is perhaps only Prometheus' wish, yet Prometheus replied that it will nevertheless happen. When the chorus replied that Zeus might send further tortures and Prometheus should not say such things, Prometheus replied that the Oceanites may worship whomever they choose, but he himself foresees his tortures and is prepared for them. Hermes, Zeus' messenger, enters and demands that Prometheus disclose the secret of Zeus' dangerous marriage. Prometheus responds that he is not afraid of these new gods and that he will reveal nothing. Hermes exclaimed that this sort of stubbornness is what got Prometheus in trouble in the first place. And Prometheus answered that he would rather be chained to the rock than be slave to Zeus. Hermes accuses him of lacking wisdom. Prometheus mocks Hermes for thinking that he can be convinced to save Zeus through threats. Only his release will entice him to speak. Hermes threatens that Prometheus will be entombed within the rock and taken down to Tartarus, from which he will emerge much later, only to have an eagle daily feast on his river. This punishment will not end until another god agrees to go to the Tartarus and take Prometheus' place. The chorus suggests that Hermes' words are somewhat sensible and Prometheus should put aside his stubbornness. But he replied that there is nothing shameful in suffering at the hand of the enemy and call on the earth to shake and take him into Tartarus amid bolts of riding. Hermes responds that Prometheus is mad and tells the sympathetic chorus to leave before they find themselves in the way of the coming thunder. The Oceanites turn on him, saying that they will stay with Prometheus because to betray a friend is the lowest act of all. Hermes responds that they should then not blame Zeus for their troubles, but realizes that they have brought them on themselves. Prometheus describes the storm around him and calls on earth and heaven to witness his suffering. And here, friends, the play ends, and let's go to the themes of this play. So the first theme of this play is tyranny and friendship. Zeus is presented as the ultimate tyrant because he will not honor the rules of friendship or understand such things as friendship, love or sympathy. Zeus punishes Prometheus even though Prometheus was the deciding factor in his victory over the Titans. The punishment is presented as particularly reprehensible not because it is so harsh, but because it is imposed on someone who was a friend. Achilles intentionally highlights this fact by inserting references to friendship throughout the play. Hephaestus mentioned that Zeus ordered trouble him because of his bond of friendship with Prometheus, and Oceanus offers his help out of friendship. The chorus, despite counseling obedience throughout the play, suddenly switches at the end to affirming friendship as a greater value. Moreover, at least one major reason for Prometheus' punishment is that he values his friendship with human beings above reverence for Zeus. The reason Zeus cannot understand friendship lies in his self-confidence and the accompanying belief that all must obey him. Prometheus' insistence on the importance of friendship, blustered by the chorus at the conclusion of the play, suggests that obedience is only a secondary value. Zeus' tyranny appears as evil and misguided rather than deserved and just. In moral terms, it seems it is not better to be feared than loved. Second theme is thought and force. Prometheus and Zeus square off as the representative of intelligence and the invisible symbol of force, respectively. Prometheus helps Zeus defeat the Titans by using guile, when Prometheus attempted to use his intelligence to aid humanity. However, Zeus used his force to punish Prometheus. The conflict is emphasized throughout the play. Zeus' henchmen mock Prometheus for not being clever enough to avoid or escape punishment, and both the chorus and Oceanus chide him from this in more sympathetic manner. Yet Prometheus makes clear that without his knowledge, Zeus will fall, overthrown by a power greater than his own. Force can overwhelm thought but cannot exist indefinitely without it. In Prometheus Bound, Aeschylus intentionally cultivates an apparently irresolvable conflict between force and intelligence by presenting Prometheus as the powerless but definite victim of an unjust and powerful god who rules by arbitrary laws and demands blind obedience. Underlying these conflicts, however, is the idea that force requires thought to guide and sustain it. Aeschylus is clearly preparing us for a resolution where thought and force work together to avoid catastrophe. Prometheus' thoughtful defiance in opposition to the unthinking obedience of Zeus Cornus underscore the idea that thought must be sustained. Prometheus' clear judgment will one day save Zeus, while his opposition to Zeus is necessary stage on the both to resolution. The third theme was excess. Both Prometheus and Zeus were constantly accused of being too excessive in their stubbornness. Prometheus will not obey Zeus, will not end his punishment. Even in love, Zeus is shown to be excessive as his obsession with Io runs in her life. As we have seen, excess is the greatest sin in the Greek moral thought. The healthy functioning of the universe requires the cooperation of opposing elements such as thought and power and the avoidance of excessive position. Nothing good can come of conflict. The chorus constantly emphasizes this moral belief while counseling Prometheus to tone down his defiance. In Greek tragedy, excess, usually excess of pride, is almost universally condemned. Fourth one is the progress. Prometheus stands for human progress against the forces of nature. We learn close to the beginning that he was given humanity the gift of fire and hope. Hope helps human beings to struggle for a better future, while fire, as the source of technology, makes success in mad struggle possible. Prometheus lists his gift to humanity in progressive order, starting with the things necessary for survival and continue on the tools of commerce and economic expansion. Aeschylus here expresses a faith in human progress, and there is at least a veiled implication that Zeus feels threatened by this progress. The gods are at least partially personification of nature. Human progress is the slow advance of humanity against the threatening elements of nature. In a sense, progress threatens to do away with the gods as nature is slowly understood and conquered through technology. Prometheus' contribution of technological gifts to humanity thus engenders the other gods, and he is punished for bestowing on human beings the favor that rightly belongs to the gods alone. Yet the faith in human progress, as Aeschylus expressed, it is clearly a new mode of thought in Greek civilization, and it is one that would be echoed more than a millennium later in thought of the Enlightenment. The fifth one was yoke and harshness. The yoke and harshness is a motive recurring throughout the play for beginning to the end, and used in all excess except one to stand in all Zeus' tyrannical power. Hephaestus and Prometheus speak of the bonds as harshness. Io compares her torture to yoke and applies the same terminology in explaining how her father was forced to exile her. Hermes compares Prometheus to a young colt biting at a bit. The persistent repetition of this motive serves to leave us with a particular impression of Zeus' power. We are never told of anything positive that is done with the power, while domination of others seems to be Zeus' only concern. This imagery also strengthens the identification of Zeus with force as opposed to Prometheus' thought. Zeus' exclusive focus on the yoking and harassing of others is also central to the persistent reference to him as a tyrant. Last motive is the time and fire. These are the two motives. Time is referred to throughout the play, bolstered by related motives of Zeus' newness of ruler, generation conflict among the gods, and the importance of fate. Prometheus shows a certain conflict between speaking and remaining silent, knowing that the proper time to reveal his purpose to Zeus has not yet come. In connection with the importance of delay here, conversation in the play often involve procrastination techniques. It takes repeated prodding of by the chorus to get Prometheus to tell the true cause of his punishment, and similar scenario is repeated with Io. Prometheus suggests that there is a right time and a wrong time for reconciliation, but that at the right time both sides will be ready. Repeated references are made to Zeus' newness as a ruler, weakening his claim to power somehow. Since age is seen as a mark of power, human beings, for example, are seen as insignificant because they are only creatures of the day. The passing of time is significant for the generation conflict referred to throughout the play. The older Titans battled the younger Zeus and lost, so that a new generation now sits in power. The conflict adds credibility to the prophecy that Zeus will be overthrown by a future son, thus continue the generational strife. Finally, time is important in its link to fate. Fate decrees how an individual life progresses through time, and it mandates Zeus mended a particular unchangeable future. Fate, as a Prometheus point out, is stronger than Zeus himself, so that even the greatest power is trapped along with all other in the stream of time. And the last one is the fire. Fire is a very obvious and transparent symbol. It is important, however, that it has the status of a symbol. At the time Prometheus Bound was written, the myth of Prometheus' theft of fire and his punishment was well known. Aeschylus, however, does not dwell on the fire itself, either as a cause of Prometheus' punishment or as an item of human value. We can note that Prometheus' theft of fire, while presented as the immediate reason for his punishment, is overshadowed by his further offenses, such as defense to Zeus and his extreme love for humanity. Similarly, Prometheus lists a number of gifts he has given to humanity, fire being only one of these. Interestingly, almost all of the skills Prometheus has taught to humanity do not rely on fire. Fire then is presented not as a literal ground of all human progress, but as a symbol of all technological and artistic advancement. So hey friends, here we have completed our play, and we have also completed our syllabus of paper number 9. And again, I am going to make a dedicated video that how you are going to make preparation for your upcoming examination. So best luck, all the best for your examination, and thank you for being with us. And from tomorrow we are going to complete the Hamlet and again the paper number 5. Thank you for watching. See you in the next lecture.